Hey guys, tonight we're descending into the darkest, most vile chamber of the medieval world, a place that whispers your name long before you reach it. The iron doors groan as they open, revealing a corridor lined with wet stone and flickering torchlight. You step in, and the air itself changes thick, metallic, and pungent with old blood. Your boots squelch on something you hope is mud, but deep down you know better. The further you walk, the louder the distant sobs become. In this place, silence isn't peace, it's what happens right before the screaming starts again. Welcome to the most horrific medieval dungeon in history. And trust me, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, post your location and local time in the comments. I'm always curious to see where and when you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive in the year 1428. The castle looms above a jagged cliff in the heart of Bohemia. From above, it appears regal, majestic, even with its arched towers and banners fluttering in the mountain wind. But no one comes here willingly. They whisper its name only when necessary, Hauska Castle. A fortress built not to keep people out, but to keep something in. It's not the grand halls that interest us tonight. No, you are drawn lower, past the crumbling stairs and mildew-soaked walls down into the belly of the fortress where sunlight dares not reach. As you move deeper, the air cools sharply. Your breath mists before you. A clanking sound echoes down the hall, not mechanical, not natural, like iron chains being dragged across stone by a hand no longer human. This dungeon has no windows, no drains. The cells are carved directly into the rock, narrow as coffins and twice as cruel. You peer inside one. Shackles bolt into the wall with leather bindings so worn they've fused with the stone. The walls are etched not with messages of hope, but with claw marks made in utter desperation. Some are deep, deep enough to suggest the prisoner used bone after their nails gave out. In another cell, the skeleton of a man lies slumped over a wooden bench. A rusted crown of thorns encircles his skull. It was once part of the disciplinary liturgy, a twisted belief that pain cleansed the soul. A chain hangs from the ceiling not for holding weight, but for dislocation. You look up at it and imagine your arms pulled above your head, stretched until your sockets tear like old cloth. The jailers here weren't merely sadists, they were artisans of suffering. They knew pain like others knew music. Every moan was a note, every scream a symphony, and they were always listening, composing, perfecting their masterpiece. There's a chamber ahead, unlocked. You push it open slowly. Inside, there's a table slick with something dark. Dried now, but layered so thick it glistens. Iron tools sit neatly arranged beside it. Not weapons, these are instruments of truth. A pear-shaped device with twisting screws, a wedge meant for mouths, a cradle lined with spikes. Everyone has a purpose, and none of them were quick. You hear a whisper behind you, but when you turn, there's no one there. Only a candle still lit, despite no one having touched this room in centuries. You begin to understand this dungeon doesn't just hold bodies. It remembers. It replays. It never forgets a scream. In the corner of the chamber, you see a door half the size of a normal one. You crouch, crawl through. The smell changes, something like sulfur mixed with rotting meat. This is the oubliette, the forgotten place. A hole in the floor just wide enough to drop a body through. There's no ladder, no rope. Prisoners were thrown in and simply left. No light, no food, just the sound of their own breath, until even that faded. You lean over and stare into it. The bottom is too deep to see. You drop a pebble. It never hits. They say the dungeon beneath Hoska Castle was built over a literal gateway to hell. That before the fortress even stood, locals feared the ground itself. Creatures crawled from the earth, winged things with glowing eyes, dragging livestock, and sometimes villagers into the pit. When the castle was built, they sealed the hole beneath it with stone prayer and blood. And you begin to feel it now. That hum, that vibration in your chest like a second heartbeat that isn't your own. You try to ignore it, but it presses into you, dense, invisible, insistent. The deeper into the dungeon you go, the more it claws at your spine. You pass murals painted not with pigment, but dried fluids. They depict hooded figures kneeling before something with too many limbs. One scene shows a man being flayed alive, not in punishment, but as an offering. His skin is stretched like parchment and covered in runes you don't recognize, though they seem to shimmer faintly when you look too long. Another chamber, this one colder still. You notice the torches in the hallway behind you have gone out. You didn't hear them extinguish. But now you're bathed only in candlelight, though you're certain you never brought a candle. This room contains an iron maiden, its door slightly ajar, inviting. A chain dangles beside it like a beckoning finger. You touch the iron, freezing. Inside, faint grooves line the spikes designed to guide blood downward and into a bowl beneath. Clean collection. Ritual precision. Suddenly you hear footsteps, but not yours. Heavier, measured. From the corridor you just left. You don't move. You don't breathe. The footsteps pause just beyond the door, then retreat. You're not alone here. You never were. The deeper truth is this: the dungeon still functions. Not officially, not under flags or kings, but under older laws, darker ones. Those who disappear in the mountains, they don't vanish. They descend. And some of them are still screaming. And now so are you. You remain frozen in place, barely daring to breathe, as the retreating footsteps fade into the stone. The air around you doesn't settle. It coils tighter, as if the very walls lean in, listening. You glance back at the Iron Maiden, still open, still waiting. And for a moment, a cruel thought slips into your mind. Maybe it would be better to climb inside, at least then you'd know where the pain was coming from. But you don't. You back away slowly, one step at a time, and slide through the narrow doorway into the corridor again. The shadows stretch longer than they should. You pass torch brackets all unlit. The flame that once clung to your presence no longer follows. Instead, you're guided now by a cold light that seeps upward from the cracks between the stones beneath your feet. You wonder what's under there. You wonder if the dungeon is the bottom or just the beginning. The corridor splits ahead. To the left, a passage lined with cells. To the right, something different. The walls are lined not with stone but scorched wood, carved with Latin phrases that have been scratched out, rewritten, then scratched out again. You take the right path, because of course you do. Some places don't give you a choice, they just wait for you to convince yourself it was yours. At the end of this hallway, a door stands ajar. A faint reddish glow pulses from within like the slow beat of a heart. The smell hits you first, flesh and fire, iron and decay. and something else incense thick and cloying, as if trying to mask what can't be masked. You push the door open with your fingertips. The chamber is circular, ringed with stone seats. An amphitheater of agony. At the center lies a pit filled with glowing coals long since cooled but still red in their core. Chains dangle above it from the ceiling, ending in hooks that glint despite the dimness. You count the seats. 13. Each with a small stone tablet carved into its back. The names have been defaced, but faint outlines remain. One of them looks like yours. You don't sit. You move along the edge of the room, careful not to disturb the ashes that coat the floor. They're thick, too thick, as if hundreds, thousands have been burned here. You feel the crunch beneath your foot and realize what you're stepping on isn't ash at all. It's teeth. Tiny, shattered, scorched. Some human, some not. A stone pedestal rises near the far wall. On it lies a book, bound in something leathery and veined with a clasp of rusted gold. You hesitate, then flip it open. The script is handwritten, its ink brown and flaking. Names, ages, offenses, but not crimes, not theft, not murder. These are sins, pride, lust, gluttony, each one followed by methods specific, tailored. A man who desired flesh was denied his own slowly over weeks. A woman guilty of vanity was blinded, then forced to mirror others' pain. You read further, and the methods grow stranger. Less about punishment, more about transformation. Something is scratching at the door behind you. You slam the book shut. You turn back toward the entrance, but the glow has vanished. The hallway is gone. The chamber is sealed. There's a creaking from above. Slowly, one of the hooks descends, chain unwinding inch by inch. It swings lazily in the air, its tip brushing the coals, now flaring again with heat that shouldn't be possible. A groan echoes from within the stone itself, as though the dungeon is exhaling after holding its breath for far too long. You move fast, circle the room, press on every stone you can find. One gives way, a hidden latch. The wall shifts, revealing a tunnel barely large enough to crawl through. You don't think. You dive in. The crawl space is slick, slimy. You push forward, heart pounding. Behind you, the hook chain clinks faster now, like something eager hungry. The air grows warm, then hot, then suddenly cold. You feel it in your teeth. Your fingers go numb. Ahead, a faint blue glow. You emerge into another room. Low ceiling, rounded walls, a well in the center. This isn't for water. Rusted handrails circle the pit. Chains lead down into the darkness below. No sound rises. You lean in, and then you hear it. Faint, distant, breathing. It's not human. It's not regular. It's not alone. You step back, but your heel nudges something. You look down. A mask. Bronze molded into a neutral expression. No mouth hole, just slits for the eyes. On the inside, nails. Dozens of tiny bent nails, meant to press inward, not to kill, but to suppress, to silence. You hear footsteps above again. Not one set this time. Several. They don't walk like guards. They shuffle drag stop suddenly. You grip the mask, unsure why. Maybe for protection. Maybe because deep down, some part of you knows you're going to need it. Behind the well, another tunnel. This one wider, carved with symbols. Some you recognize alchemy, perhaps. Others are older, writhing, asymmetrical, meant to be felt more than read. You enter, and it's there the air shifts again. Not heavier, but thinner, like it's watching you. This passage curves, deepens, the stones sweat. You run your fingers along the wall and your skin tingles. Ahead, you hear something wet, something dragging. A cell door appears on your left, oddly new, reinforced. You peer inside. There is a figure, bound, masked, breathing slowly. On the wall behind them, a phrase is etched again and again. They're still listening. You don't know who or what, but the longer you stare, the more you understand. This dungeon isn't just a prison. It's a conversation, and you've already said too much. You back away from the cell door, the phrase burned into your thoughts. They're still listening. The words loop in your mind like a whisper echoing down a bottomless tunnel. You try to reason with yourself. Maybe it was just a madman's rambling. Maybe it meant nothing. But deep inside, in that quiet, instinctual part of your brain, you know better. You move on deeper into the passage, every step sinking you further into the dungeon's design. It's not linear down here. The walls breathe with you. The stones twitch when you pass. You can feel them recording your presence like they've been waiting for someone to speak again after centuries of silence. Eventually, the tunnel widens. You're standing in what can only be described as a gallery. The walls stretch high, impossibly high, despite the fact that you're far below the earth's surface. Hung along them are portraits not painted, but stitched, fabric dyed with blood thread made from hair. Each tapestry tells a story, and each story is a tragedy. The first one shows a man, young, noble, defiant. He kneels before a hooded figure. Around him, his family shackled in chains. Beneath the image, a single sentence is embroidered. To protect the many, one must suffer completely. You stare at the scene and realize that the man is not being offered mercy, he's being chosen. The next tapestry is worse. A child strapped to a wooden frame. His eyes are wide, mouth sewn shut. Beneath it, the tongue is the root of betrayal. You have to look away. There are dozens more. Some torn, others burned around the edges as if someone tried to destroy them and failed. But every image shares the same composition, someone suffering, someone watching, and someone writing. Always writing. As though every act down here was carefully documented, measured, preserved. You turn and notice something carved into the far wall, a narrow spiral staircase descending even deeper. No railings, just slick stone and utter darkness. You begin your descent, feeling your way down, each step steeper than the last. Your foot slips once and your hand catches a groove in the wall. It's not a crack, it's a handprint. Dozens of them burnt into the stone like they were left there while aflame. You jerk your hand back. The stone is cold. But somehow the print you touched still stings. At the base of the staircase, you enter a chamber so quiet, your own heartbeat becomes thunder. It's round again. You're beginning to sense a pattern, ritualistic symmetry. The floor is covered in a spiral mosaic, made of bones, not arranged at random, deliberately placed. Long bones, finger bones, vertebrae. Human mostly. Some too small to belong to adults. Some not human at all. In the center of the spiral is a dais, and on it a throne. No, not a throne. A chair of punishment. You've heard of these. The interrogator's seat. Wooden. studded with spikes, designed so that the weight of the victim drives the metal deeper into their flesh the longer they sit. But this one is different. The spikes are hollow. They connect to tubes which connect to jars. You don't need to guess what the jars were meant to collect. You walk a wide circle around it. The walls of this chamber are etched top to bottom with words in dozens of languages. Some familiar Latin, Old German, Old French. Others far more ancient. Some of the inscriptions seem to shift when you aren't looking directly at them. Others hum softly under your breath, like they're trying to translate themselves to reach you. Suddenly, you hear a slow creak, that unmistakable sound of wood bending under weight. You whirl around. The chair is occupied. You didn't see it happen. You didn't blink. But now there is a figure slumped in it, thin, bloodless lips peeled back in a silent scream. They don't move, but their eyes are open, and they're looking directly at you. You freeze. You can't even will yourself to breathe. Their mouth moves slowly. Just one word. You don't hear it aloud. It arrives in your mind like a foreign thought. Run. The torches lining the wall ignite instantly. Blue flame. Cold. The mosaic of bones pulses with light. You run. Back up the staircase. The stone seems to shift underfoot. The hallway no longer leads the way it did before. The dungeon is changing, rearranging, like it's correcting your presence, like you've strayed into a room that wasn't meant for you. You slam into a door that wasn't there before. Locked. But this time the key is hanging beside it, suspended from a nail embedded in a jawbone affixed to the wall. You grab it, and the key is warm, alive almost. It pulses in your palm as you shove it into the lock and twist. The door opens onto a long bridge. A bridge, yes, suspended over a massive chasm. The walls stretch outward like a cathedral turned inside out. Hanging lanterns sway without wind. The abyss below is filled with fog that glows with a sick green hue. You have no idea what lies beneath it, but you know this: if you fall, you won't die. Not quickly. You start across the bridge. Halfway over, you notice faces carved into the stone arch above you. Some are screaming, some are smiling. One looks exactly like yours. You don't look again. You run. The other side is a gate iron barred and twisted, but behind it, light. Flickering. Warm, a chamber filled with flame. Not the cold kind, but fire that smells of earth and smoke, not blood. You reach the gate. It swings open. Inside is a large circular room, and for the first time you feel something different. You feel watched. Not from behind, but from above. You lift your eyes, and there, carved into the ceiling, is a vast eye. No pupils, just a spiral. Familiar. The same one that made up the bone mosaic. There's no furniture here. No chains, no spikes. Just a circle in the floor. Clean. White marble. It radiates warmth. But this place isn't safety. It's a decision point. You've gone too far, learned too much, and now the dungeon gives you a choice: kneel or continue. And you realize whatever this place was built for, it doesn't want to kill you. It wants to keep you. You stand there unmoving, your breath shallow and uncertain. The white marble beneath your feet pulses faintly with warmth, not the comfort of a hearth, or summer sun, but something more unsettling. It feels aware, like it's testing you, measuring your hesitation. And somewhere in the unseen heights above you, sense that eye is still watching. Not carved into the stone, but alive behind it, immense, slow, blinking, patient. You look back. The iron gate behind you has vanished. No hinges, no doorframe, just smooth wall now. The bridge, too gone. You are sealed inside. Your knees tremble, not from fatigue, but from something deeper, the sense that this place doesn't trap you. It absorbs you. The dungeon doesn't keep prisoners. It invites them to become part of it. The marble circle beckons, pulsing again, warm as blood just beneath skin. You take a step forward cautiously. Nothing happens. Another. Still nothing. But the moment you place your foot on the very center of the marble disc, the floor drops. Not violently, no trapdoor or scream of collapsing stone, but like an elevator descending without support. Gravity shifted by unseen hands. There's no wind, no jolt, just slow, steady motion downward as the walls rise around you, like a shaft carved into the roots of the earth. You descend for what feels like hours, or perhaps mere seconds. Time twists in this place, curling at the edges. You feel lightheaded, your pulse steadying not from calm, but from something external. As if your heart is no longer beating on its own, but keeping rhythm with the dungeon itself. Then a thud. You stop. The marble platform halts at the base of a vast subterranean chamber. It stretches wider than any space should be able to this far underground. Columns rise from floor to ceiling, each one made of bone-stacked femurs, rib cages, pelvises, all mortared with blackened sinew. Massive iron chains hang between them, each one thick as a man's torso, swaying slowly as if breathing. And in the center of the room, illuminated by torches that cast no shadows, stands a figure. It is robed tall, unmoving, face hidden, hands folded neatly in front. You don't know how you know, but you know this is the warden of the dungeon. Not a person. Not exactly, not anymore. You step off the platform, and your footsteps echo across the endless floor. The warden does not move, yet you feel its presence sharpen, like it is shifting focus entirely onto you. Every inch of its being is wrapped in a black fabric that seems to drink the light. No skin is visible. Only a strange sigil glows faintly on its chest, spiraled, thorned, the same symbol you've seen again and again. When you speak, your voice sounds alien in your own ears. Who are you? The warden doesn't answer. But the moment you speak, something begins behind you, a low hum. The bones in the columns begin to tremble. The chains clink like distant bells. And on the far walls, stone panels begin to rise, revealing alcoves. Inside each one, a prisoner. Hundreds of them. Men, women, even children, each suspended in time. Eyes open yet unseeing. Mouths slack, some frozen in silent screams. Others smile. But it's the eyes you remember. Glassy, endless, devoid of self. You turn back to the warden, your throat dry. Why am I here? Still no answer. Instead, the warden raises one hand slowly and points to your chest. You look down. A mark is glowing beneath your clothes. Faintly at first, but brightening, burning through fabric into skin. The same sigil. It pulses. The pain is sharp, sudden, but not unbearable. You try to touch it, but your fingers pass through the light. It isn't a wound. It's an invitation. A low whisper floods the room, not from the warden's mouth, but from everywhere at once. The voice is layered dozens, speaking in unison. Male and female, old and young. All of them say the same thing: judgment begins. You feel your memories being pulled, not just watched, but peeled from your mind, like pages from a burning book. Scenes of your life flicker around you like dust in torchlight. Every regret, every betrayal, every secret you thought you'd buried deep. You want to scream, but your mouth won't open. Then suddenly, silence. The images vanish. The warden steps to the side. Behind it, another doorway, arched, old. The stone looks ancient even compared to the rest of the dungeon, covered in moss and decay. But beyond it, faint moonlight, trees, the scent of pine, the outside world. You blink. Freedom. The warden gestures again toward the door. But as you move toward it, you notice something strange. The moment you pass the warden's side, you feel heavy. Each step takes effort. Your limbs drag your heartbeat, slowing. You reach the doorway and step through. The scent of the forest is real. The sky above you is a quilt of stars. You look around and find yourself in a clearing. No guards, no chains, just trees, wind, and silence. You start walking, but every step feels like you're dragging something behind you. You stop. You look back. You're alone. But you realize the truth: the dungeon didn't let you go. It sent you. Because once you've walked its halls, felt its hunger, witnessed its secrets, you become part of it. You are no longer a visitor. You are its emissary. And somewhere deep below, the warden watches your departure. Not with sorrow, but with certainty. You continue through the forest, the sound of leaves crunching underfoot. But it's not natural anymore. It's muffled like footsteps heard underwater. The air feels wrong, too. There's wind, but it doesn't brush your skin. The pine scent is sharp, yes, but there's something acrid beneath it, like burning parchment and old iron. The deeper you walk, the more you feel it. You never really left. You've crossed a threshold, yes, but it's not freedom. It's expansion. You are carrying the dungeon with you now. Somewhere in your mind, you try to remember who you were before this, what your name was, where you lived, but the memories come back distorted, faces blurred, voices distant. It's as if the further you walk from the stone and chains, the more of yourself the dungeon keeps. Ahead, a village appears, small. Stone cottages tucked between tree roots and crumbling walls. A chapel with a broken bell. Light flickers in a few windows, candles maybe, or fires barely burning. You approach cautiously, unsure what you're even looking for. Rest, rescue answers. At the village edge, an old man stares at you. He doesn't flinch or smile, just stares as if he's been waiting. "You've come from below," he says. You pause. What do you mean?" He points to your chest, to the mark, glowing faintly beneath your skin. It's always the same. They come through the trees, pale, changed. The mark shines like a lantern, like a warning. Others begin to appear behind him. Villagers, women, children. No one speaks. No one dares come close. They think you're a prophet, the old man says, his voice barely above a whisper. Or a curse. You try to protest, but he holds up a hand. No need. You don't understand yet. But you will. He turns and begins walking toward the chapel. You follow because at this point, refusing anything feels pointless. The dungeon has already chosen your path. This is just another bend in the corridor. Inside the chapel is dark. The stained glass windows are cracked, but through them you see twisted shapes, creatures with wings, claws crowned with thorns, and eyes too wide. These aren't saints. They're warnings. At the altar, the old man kneels. The floor beneath him is carved stone, and it's familiar. The spiral. Again. The symbol repeats endlessly. In the wood grain, the candle soot, even the arrangement of bricks. It's everywhere now. You begin to wonder, was it always there even before you entered the dungeon? The old man speaks again. This land, it's sick. Always has been. We built over the rot, tried to pray it away. But it's too deep, too old. He looks at you, eyes shining with something that isn't fear. It's worse, it's hope. You came from the pit. That means the pit chose you. Maybe you'll be the one to open it. Maybe you'll be the one to seal it for good. I don't want any of this, you whisper. I didn't choose anything. He sighs. None of us do. That's the first lesson the dungeon teaches. You leave the chapel, the villagers parting like water as you pass. No one touches you. No one dares. Outside the village, a single path leads into the hills. Dirt and stone. No torches. Just the moonlight. You follow it. You don't know why. Maybe to escape. Maybe to return. Hours pass. The path leads you to a small tower, crumbling but intact. A watchpost, perhaps. Its single door is unlocked. You enter. The inside is empty, save for a table, a chair, and a mirror. You freeze. It's not glass. It's polished obsidian. Tall, thin, wrong. You step toward it. Your reflection is not quite right. Your face is your own, but your eyes are darker, your smile slightly crooked. And behind you, a flicker. Stone walls, chains, a spiral carved into the ceiling. You turn. You're still in the tower, but the mirror remains unchanged. You lean closer. Your reflection doesn't move. It watches. Then it speaks. Not aloud, but inside you, just like the warden did. There is no outside. The room begins to shift. The wooden floor creaks and cracks. The stone walls ripple like fabric. Your stomach lurches. You blink once and you're not in the tower anymore. You're back in the dungeon. But deeper now, somewhere new, somewhere colder. The walls are smoother, metallic almost. Pipes run along them, hissing faintly. Liquid drips into troughs that glow dull orange. This is no medieval stone chamber. This is older, more advanced, more cruel. You're in the core now. No longer a visitor. No longer an emissary. But something in between. A figure waits ahead. It's not the warden. It's not robed. It looks like you. It wears your face, your clothes. But there's no spark in its eyes, no breath in its chest. It is you without soul, without fear, without will, and it speaks. Take your place. You want to run, to scream, to refuse, but your feet move on their own, and the dungeon smiles. You step forwards, not because you choose to, but because choice no longer exists here. Your legs move, but they do not obey you. There's a new conductor in your veins, humming beneath your skin like a forgotten hymn. The echo of the dungeon guides you now, patient, unhurried, inevitable. Your mirror self waits without expression. Its eyes don't blink, don't glimmer. There's nothing behind them but obedience, pure and unbroken. You stare into your own hollowed face, wondering, is this what's waiting for me at the end? Is this what the dungeon turns us into? Behind the copy of you, the corridor yawns open, tall, wide, covered in etchings that spiral endlessly up the walls like ivy choked with secrets. It leads downward again, always down. The dungeon never rises, it only pulls. Your reflection steps aside, and you understand it isn't a guard. It's a marker, a warning, a placeholder for what you're becoming. You pass it in silence. The corridor grows colder, not the bite of winter air, but sterile surgical cold. It creeps into your bones, slows your joints. Your breath emerges in pale clouds, not from heat loss, but from something else. The air is changing you. The light shifts, too gone are the flickering torches and shadowy lanterns. Here the walls glow faintly on their own. A gray-blue luminescence as if lit by the memory of moonlight that never touched the surface. You descend a stairwell made of metal, not rusted iron or ancient bronze, but something smoother, seamless, almost organic, like the staircase itself was grown rather than built. Each step buzzes faintly beneath your footfalls, and with every level down, the hum grows louder. Then the stairs end. You step into a chamber unlike any you've seen, perfectly circular, walls paneled in that same strange metal. The ceiling so high it vanishes into a dome of shadows. In the center of the room, a platform, and on the platform, an altar. Not religious, surgical. It's shaped like a person, arms out, legs apart, grooves cut into its surface to channel blood or something else. You're not alone here either. Around the edge of the chamber stand 13 figures, hooded and unmoving, silent, watching. Not the same as the villagers, not the same as the warden. These are older. You can feel it in your teeth. Their gaze drills through you, not with cruelty, but calculation, cold, mathematical. You step toward the platform. A voice speaks, not aloud, not even in your mind. It settles into your bones. You have walked far, too far. The hooded figures do not move. You were never meant to escape. You were meant to descend. You want to run. You truly do. But running doesn't exist here. The dungeon does not chase. It simply waits. You begin to understand why people scream even when they're alone in its halls. It's not fear. It's the final defiance before the inevitable. You ask hoarsely. What happens now? The altar glows faintly. You sleep, and you serve. You laugh. You don't mean to. It escapes you dry, broken, almost hysterical. I'm not staying, you whisper. I'm not becoming part of this. The chamber doesn't respond with fury. Only silence. And silence is worse. The 13 figures part slightly. Behind them a wall shifts open. Beyond it a library. impossible in size. Thousands, tens of thousands of shelves curve in spirals that stretch into the void. Books line them, journals, scrolls, slabs etched in languages not yet born, each one pulsing softly, like a heart. And one shelf is labeled with your name. You don't want to look, you need to. You approach. There, nestled between 1,000 other volumes, is your book. You remove it. The cover is warm. You open to the first page. It begins not with your birth, not with your childhood. It begins with your arrival here. Every detail, every step, every thought, written in a hand not your own but eerily familiar. You flip ahead, pages yet unwritten, blank, waiting. And below the final empty line, 2 words are etched. You choose, you turn. The altar remains, and beside it your reflection has returned. Not emotionless this time. It's smiling, not cruelly, but gently, as if to say, you've done well. Now lie down. You approach the platform, kneel beside it, run your fingers across the grooves. They vibrate beneath your touch. The dungeon doesn't kill. It doesn't torment. Not truly. It transforms. Behind you, the 13 figures chant something low. Not words. Sounds. A language of bone and pressure and fire. And the moment you understand that you could lie down, and the moment you feel how easy it would be, you step back. You look at your reflection, and for the first time it looks uncertain. You speak aloud now. Your voice cracks, but it carries no. The chamber does not react. The hooded figures do not move. But something shifts, barely perceptible. The platform dims. Your book, still in your hands, closes itself. You feel the pain immediately. A deep, sharp wound inside your head. The dungeon is displeased. You fall to one knee, clutching your temple. The 13 figures turn in perfect unison. And behind them, where the library once was, a new door opens. Dark, unlit, but waiting. You rise, you stagger forward, and you pass through without another word. Because defiance is its own kind of prayer. And in this place, prayer is pain. The darkness swallows you whole. No echo, no light, no breath but your own, until even that starts to sound borrowed. You step forward blindly, each footfall like a whisper you're not sure you made. The air here is thick, not with dust or rot, but with intention. It clings to your skin like oil. The walls press inward, though you cannot see them. You feel them, watching, waiting. And then, without warning, the floor tilts beneath your feet. Not enough to make you fall, but enough to suggest that gravity is no longer your ally. You brace yourself against nothing. There is no railing, no edge, just the dark and the hum of something massive deep below. Not mechanical, not alive, architectural. The tunnel begins to slope downward again, always downward. The dungeon doesn't grant you the illusion of ascent. Your mind reels. You've defied it. You rejected the altar, refused the transformation. But instead of punishing you, the dungeon has redirected you, offered a darker passage, which is worse. Because now it's curious. You keep walking, and eventually the darkness parts, not by flame, not by magic, but by pure absence. A great void opens before you, vast and infinite. and in its center, a spiral staircase, twisting like a corkscrew into an abyss so black it absorbs your thoughts. The stairs are made of glass. Beneath them, you see nothing and everything. Shadows move down there, long, thin, crawling like insects, but dragging human limbs. You don't watch long. You can't afford to. You begin your descent. Each step rings like a chime, but the sound doesn't echo. It folds inward like the dungeon is collecting it, feeding on your presence. Halfway down, the staircase narrows. You're forced to press against the inner wall to continue. That's when you realize the wall is warm, beating, faintly pulsing like the side of an immense creature. You place a hand on it, and it shudders beneath your touch. A heartbeat. The dungeon is alive, and you are walking through its veins. You keep going until the glass turns to bone. The steps grow uneven. You feel them resisting your tread like teeth grinding underfoot. You come to the bottom, and there finally is a door. But it's not made of wood or iron or stone. It's made of flesh, a vertical slit in something that breathes. You hesitate, but not for long, because hesitation is just another way the dungeon learns your limits. You press your hands to the door. It opens not by swinging, but by parting. The room beyond is small, circular again. The walls are mirrors, flawless, seamless, and curved inward. In the center, a stool, wooden, blood-stained. A basin sits beside it filled with dark liquid. You already know what it is. You don't have to ask. You stare at your reflection, but what looks back isn't you, not entirely. This version is hunched, hollow-eyed, covered in markings etched deep into the skin. Spirals again, thorned loops circling your arms, your throat, your chest. But the most horrific part isn't the scars. It's the smile. That awful permanent grin that never reaches the eyes. You take a step forward, and the mirror self moves too, but not like a reflection. Its movements lag. Jerk. As if pretending to be you, mimicking a memory instead of mirroring reality. You reach the stool. You sit. The door seals shut behind you. The lights dim, though no source was visible. And the room begins to speak, not in words, but in sensation. You feel fingers crawling across your scalp, except there are no fingers. Only the suggestion of touch. You feel something sharp pressed behind your eyes, but you see no blade. The dungeon doesn't need tools. It uses your own mind. The basin bubbles. Your reflection tilts its head slowly. And suddenly you remember something that was never yours. A childhood memory. A family you've never had. A love you never knew. A betrayal that never happened, but it feels real. So real it sears into you like truth. You clutch your head, eyes watering. The dungeon is feeding you falsehoods, and each one comes with pain. Not physical, but spiritual. It's rewriting you, testing whether your identity is strong enough to survive its stories. You scream, but the mirrors don't reflect it. Instead, they show you laughing, over and over. Dozens of versions of you, all delighted, all wrong. The basin overflows. Thick black liquid spills across the floor, inching toward your feet like it's hunting. When it touches your boots, it seeps upward into the soles, the fabric, the skin, and with it comes understanding. You see flashes. The dungeon's first victim. A man who came seeking power. He carved the original spiral into the stone with his own blood. Not as a curse, but as an invitation. He called something, and it came, not from above, not from below, but from within. It used him. It hollowed him out and made him the first warden. You see his face, and it's yours. Not like the mirror, exactly yours. Because you aren't the first to walk this path. You're just the most recent. The stool cracks beneath you. The basin is dry. The mirror is empty. You rise. The door opens again without touch. You leave. And as you pass through, the spirals behind you glow brighter. Not as symbols, but as eyes, watching, waiting, marking your place in the cycle. Because now the dungeon knows you belong to it. Even if you never meant to. You walk forward, but something's changed. The ground no longer echoes beneath your steps, it absorbs them. Your boots make no sound. The air is still, yet your skin tingles like static before a storm. It's not that the dungeon is growing darker. It's that the darkness now recognizes you. It moves with you. Follows behind like a second skin. The hallway ahead is narrow and crooked, carved not with tools, but by something with claws. The walls have no mortar, no structure, just torn rock and wet, glistening roots that twitch as you pass. Each one looks like a vein, and as you peer closer, you swear you can see fluid moving inside them. It pulses faster the longer you stare. You tear your gaze away and press on. The path twists, the walls constrict. You're forced to duck now, to crawl. Your knees crunch against bones embedded in the earth. Skulls peer out from the mud, wide-mouthed, as if screaming in silence. Then, a whisper. Not distant, not imagined, but right beside your ear. Closer. You spin around, nothing. The passage behind you is as empty as it was before. You crawl faster now. The passage finally opens into a low, circular room. Your back aches from the cramped descent, but you stand slowly, breath shallow. The space is silent, too silent. There's no dripping water, no wind. Even your heartbeat feels distant. In the center of the chamber, a figure kneels, thin, bare, back turned to you. Its skin is pale and cracked like old porcelain, flaking in thin, curling ribbons. Hair long tangled, matted with grime. The room reeks of copper and rot. You step closer. The figure trembles but doesn't react. Then it speaks. Its voice rasps like old paper torn slowly in half. You came late. You stop. I don't, you begin. But it interrupts. No. You don't speak. You listen. It lifts its head slightly, but never turns. The dungeon doesn't lie. It doesn't punish. It reminds. That is its only truth. You swallow, throat dry. Reminds who it tilts its head further. Everyone. It finally turns, and you recoil, not in fear, but in recognition. The face is yours, not a reflection, not a copy, but an older version, decayed, tortured, time-worn. Yet those are still your eyes. It smiles. I said no once, it says, like you did. Thought I could walk away. Thought there was a door. There's always a door, but you don't walk out of the dungeon. You whisper, then what am I walking into? It crawls forward, each movement wet and cracking. The skin on its knees splits, revealing flesh underneath that doesn't bleed but steams. It reaches out and places a hand against your chest, right over the mark. You feel warmth, then heat, then fire, and then nothing. For a moment, your senses vanish. Sight, hearing, smell, even gravity. You float in a space not built for human minds, and then it all slams back. You're in another room, another chamber. But this one is wrong. It's made of wood. Oak, maybe. Plain. Dusty. Like an abandoned cottage. A table. A chair. A window with cracked glass. Sunlight streams in too perfect. Too gentle. You step toward the window and peer outside. Children play in a field. A dog barks in the distance. A woman laughs. Someone calls your name. Your real name. And for a moment, your body forgets the dungeon. Your heart soars. The sunlight touches your face and it feels true. Until you blink. And everything changes. The children vanish. The field is ash. The woman's laughter becomes a scream, and the glass beneath your hand begins to melt. You stumble back. The room begins to contract like lungs exhaling around you. The walls creak. The wood peels like skin from old fruit. Insects pour from the corners. Dozens, hundreds, spiders with human eyes, centipedes made of tiny hands. They swarm, not biting, but watching. The door slams shut. You spin, panic building, and in the corner the kneeling version of you has returned. But now it's smiling wider. You back away. The walls groan louder. The ceiling opens above you, revealing only stone and chains, and a voice returns. This time yours. You can leave, you know. All you have to do is forget. You close your eyes. No, you've seen too much. You know what forgetting means. It's not mercy. It's surrender. It's the final step into the dungeon's embrace. You grit your teeth, and you remember. Everything. The warden, the altar, the mirror, the book with your name. The mark on your chest glows again, brighter this time, furious. The insects screech and scatter. The floor splits beneath you, and this time you jump. You fall through the void. The dungeon howls behind you. You land hard. Stone beneath you. Cold. Familiar. You look up, and there before you is a door. Tall. Carved with the spiral. But this time you're not afraid. You walk toward it. You open it. And you enter the place where the dungeon keeps its memory. You pass through the door, and the air shifts again. This place, this memory vault, feels different from the rest of the dungeon. There's no dripping water, no iron chains, no tortured moans hanging in the shadows. Instead, silence wraps around you like thick velvet. It's not comforting. It's total. And beneath that silence is something worse, the sensation that everything here is awake. The room is vast, circular as always. But unlike the damp stone halls you've come to know, this chamber is perfectly smooth, the walls seamless and pale. They seem to glow softly, not with light, but with awareness. You take a cautious step forward. The floor is glass. Beneath it, memories. Millions of them spinning like flecks of dust in amber. As you walk, they rise briefly to the surface, playing out silently beneath your feet. A man begging for mercy, chained by the wrists. A woman holding a newborn in a dark corridor. A child smiling before being pulled into shadow. All of them scenes from the dungeon's past, or perhaps from its mind. You stop. Right below your foot, a memory floats up. It's you. You see yourself descending the first staircase, the first shackle you touched, the moment you heard footsteps that didn't belong to anyone alive. It's all here. The dungeon has been recording you, not just your body, not just your voice, your soul. You back away. The memory fades, but the chill it leaves behind lingers in your spine. In the center of the chamber stands a column, massive, pulsing faintly with veins of molten red. It stretches from floor to ceiling, and surrounding it are shelves, not of books, but of jars. Hundreds, thousands, maybe more. Each jar contains a flickering wisp of color like smoke, but thicker. Some swirl violently. Others sit still. Souls, or fragments of them. You approach one shelf. The jars are labeled, not with names, but symbols. Spirals, dots, crescents, and occasionally your own mark carved lightly into the glass. You find one. The contents pulse as you near it, turning from pale blue to dark crimson. This jar is yours. You reach for it, but your fingers stop just shy of touching the glass, because deep in your chest, the mark flares, angry, protective. The dungeon does not want you to take your memory. Not yet. Not while it still owns it. You step back. Behind you, a sound. At first, just a faint shuffle, then footsteps. Familiar. Too familiar. You turn, and there you are again. The version of you that smiled in the mirror. But now it's changed. No longer a simple echo. It's dressed like you, moves like you, breathes like you. But its eyes are all wrong, empty, as if scraped clean. It speaks. You are not a prisoner here. You hold your breath. You are a seed. The air thickens. The dungeon doesn't trap souls. It grows them, twists them, then sends them out to take root elsewhere. You take a step back, heart pounding. It continues. You were never meant to die here. You were meant to carry it forward, like all the others before you. The chamber darkens. All the jars flicker at once. Some crack, some shatter. The glass under your feet begins to hum, a low, teeth-chattering vibration. The reflection, you raises a hand and points toward the center column. And for the first time, you notice it's bleeding. Thick black fluid runs down its sides, oozing from unseen cracks. And in it faces, shifting, moaning, begging. The dungeon doesn't have walls. It doesn't have chains. It has you. You run, not out of fear, but clarity. You understand now. The dungeon doesn't want worship. It wants presence. It feeds on movement, emotion, memory. It spreads through people like a disease. It doesn't live beneath the ground. It lives wherever someone remembers it. And now, you've remembered too much. You reach a door at the far end of the chamber. No lock, no spiral, just blank old wood. You fling it open and fall forward into a room of mirrors. Every wall reflects you, but none are the same. One version is crying. One is screaming. One lies broken on the floor. One smiles calmly, blood dripping from its hands. They all turn to you at once, and in perfect unison they say, "It's time." The mirrors ripple. The reflections step out. You don't fight. There's no point. They surround you, circle you, whisper things you thought no one knew. shames, secrets, memories not even you believed were real. You drop to your knees, clutching your ears, and still they whisper. But then, silence. They're gone. All of them. The mirrors are empty, you stand. The mark on your chest burns again, and the room shudders. A final door opens before you, and on the other side a throne. Not iron, not stone, but bone. Stacked high, polished, waiting. And above it in letters too ancient to belong to any language, something is carved. One must remember. One must rule. You take a breath, and you step through. Because now you understand. The dungeon doesn't choose wardens. It creates them. The moment you step into the throne chamber, the air changes. Not heavier, not colder, just still. As though the very molecules around you have been frozen in awe. The silence doesn't feel empty. It feels devout. Like you've entered a place meant only for eyes that have seen too much. A sanctum of memory and rule. And at the center, atop a dais of steps that spiral upward like vertebrae, is the throne. It towers, built from countless bones, every one bleached, carved, polished smooth by time and pressure. Spines woven together to form the seat. Arms forged from femurs curved like talons. A high back crowned with skulls, some human, some not. The throne doesn't wait for kings. It builds them. You stand at the base of the steps, pulse thudding in your ears. The spiral symbol is etched into the stone floor over and over, faint but unending. You can't tell if the marks are ancient or forming as you stare. You look up. The chamber dome stretches high above, where a single shaft of pale light shines straight down onto the throne's seat. There are no torches here, no fire. The dungeon lights its sovereign the way a cathedral lights its altar, with reverence, not warmth. You don't want to climb the steps, but your body does. One foot moves, then the next. Each step vibrates under your boot, as though the bones themselves hum with memory, as though they recognize you, accept you, or perhaps summon you. Halfway up, you pause. Behind you, the door you entered is gone. Of course it is. There's no turning back from the throne. And yet there's no fear now. Not exactly. Just inevitability. You are becoming the final piece in a puzzle older than the dungeon's stones. A question no one ever meant to ask. You reach the top. You stand before the throne. And it is vast. You sit. The instant your body touches the throne, everything stops. No air, no time, no self, just stillness. Then the flood begins. Not water, not blood, but memory. It doesn't trickle, it pours. Every life the dungeon has ever touched surges into you. Thousands upon thousands. Centuries of agony and desire, hope and surrender. You feel the weight of every prisoner who wept in the dark, every jailer who twisted the blade, every soul that screamed its truth into stone. You feel the originals, the first builders, the ones who carved the spiral into flesh before they carved it into walls, who believed that pain was a kind of language, one that spoke directly to the divine. You see their rituals. You hear their chants. You become their memory. And in the center of it all, you feel it. The heart, not metaphorical. A real, massive, ancient thing. It beats below the throne. Not with blood, but with will. The will of the dungeon. And now that you're seated, it speaks to you not in words, but in understanding. You are not its master. You are its mouth. You will remember for the world what it dares to forget. The bone beneath you shifts, tightens, pulls you downward, not to crush, but to root. The throne is not a seat. It is a seed bed, and you are being planted. But something is wrong. The mark on your chest flares brighter than ever. It glows hot, not just with power, but with resistance. You cry out, clenching the arms of the throne as visions surge through you. A young woman descending a staircase, whispering your name. A candle held in trembling fingers. A door hidden beneath a chapel. A hand reaching toward the light. You see them. Other selves. Other versions. All who came before you. All who sat here. But one thing binds them together. They all forgot. But you haven't. Not yet. You remember the mirror. You remember the book with your name. You remember choosing not to obey. And suddenly the throne trembles beneath you. The bones twitch. The skulls crack. A deep growl rises from the heart below, not in rage but in confusion. You are not submitting. You are still deciding. The dungeon doesn't like that. It recoils. You feel the chamber shift. The dome darkens. The air thickens. The spiral beneath your feet begins to unravel. For the first time in perhaps centuries, the dungeon falters, because it doesn't know what you'll do next. You rise from the throne. Pain rips through your spine. You feel tendrils trying to hold you, to anchor you back in place. But you wrench yourself free, stumbling down the spiral steps. And with each step, the light grows. Not the dungeon's light. Your light. The mark on your chest burns white, now no longer crimson. Pure. Unfiltered. Uninvited. You run. The dais crumbles behind you. The throne collapses, the bones screaming as they scatter like ash. The chamber tries to close, to swallow you, to stop the breach, but it's too late. You are out, and you are remembering. The dungeon had one rule. No one remembers, but you do. And now you're carrying its secret, its blueprint, its truth. And truth in a place like this is the sharpest blade of all. You're running through a tunnel that didn't exist moments ago, hewn from broken roots and cracking stone, the dungeon warping around your defiance. It tries to close the passage behind you, but it's slow. Too slow. Not because it's weak, but because it's confused. And the dungeon does not tolerate confusion. Its perfect cycle suffer, forget, transform has fractured. Because you remembered. Because you resisted the throne. Every footstep echoes like thunder, though your lungs burn and your chest sears with heat. The mark, that cursed spiral, once red and dim, now glows white-hot like a brand fresh from the fire. It isn't just light. It's breaking something, carving new cracks into the dungeon's laws. As you press forward, the walls begin to whisper. But they aren't words. They're pleas. Faint voices emerge from the stone, the floor, even the air for desperate murmurs clinging to your ears like smoke. Take me with you. I remember. Don't leave me behind. You know better than to look back. You've seen what happens to those who hesitate. Still, their voices crawl through your thoughts like vines through mortar. And then, just ahead, a flicker of light. But this time, it's not a torch's flicker. It's not that cold chemical glow you've seen in the deeper chambers. This is sunlight. Real golden warm sunlight. It spills down a narrow flight of stairs that spiral upward. The first upward path you've seen. You climb, fast, breathless. Your legs scream, but you push forward. The steps crumble slightly beneath your feet, like the dungeon is trying to erase them as you ascend. But you're too quick now, too focused. You burst into a hallway. Stone. Familiar. And up ahead, a door. Wooden. Cracked. Real. You know it. You've been here before. It's the entrance. The very first one you stepped through before all this began. But something's wrong. The light leaking through the door flickers daylight and shadow flicking back and forth like a heartbeat. And something stands in front of it. Your reflection again. But it's different. No longer passive. No longer smiling. It's armored now. Thick black plates wrapped in chains. Its face is hidden behind a spiral-etched mask, but you feel its eyes locked on you. A sword hangs at its side, not rusted like the others you've seen. This one is polished, sharp, ritualistic, and it speaks with your voice. You don't get to leave and take it with you. You raise your head, sweat dripping from your brow. I'm not taking it, you say through gritted teeth. I'm freeing it. It tilts its head. Freeing what? The memories, the truth, they'll only rot out there. The world isn't built to hold what's in here. That's why the dungeon exists, to contain it. You step forward. It draws the sword. If you walk out that door, it says you tear open a wound the world forgot it had. You place your hand over your heart. The spiral burns brighter than ever, I know. And then the battle begins. Not with swords, not with fists, but with memory. Your own thoughts turn on you. Regret stabs into your chest. Shame claws at your eyes. Guilt curls around your throat. Every mistake you've made floods your mind like a tidal wave of accusation. But you don't let go. You hold on. You remember. The faces, the mirrors, the child under the stone, the blood-filled basin, the spiraling steps. You own it all. And that's when the reflection falters. It steps back the sword, dropping to the floor with a clatter that shatters the silence. You don't strike it. You don't need to, because it was never your enemy. It was your final test. You reach the door. Place your hand on the worn, splintered wood. The mark glows once more, and then fades. It's gone. Completely. You look down. Only skin remains. You open the door. The sunlight hits you like a baptism. The warmth is almost too much. Your eyes sting, your skin prickles. You step out, and you're standing on the mountainside just beneath the crumbling shadow of Huska Castle. Birds wheel in the sky above. Trees sway in the wind. The world moves. And it doesn't scream. You fall to your knees. The dungeon is behind you, but it isn't. You feel it still, like an echo lodged in your spine, like a stain under your nails. It didn't follow you, but it left its fingerprint. You hear a voice, faint, fainter than ever. Now remember. You nod, because you will. Because someone has to, and because once you've sat on the throne even for a second, You are never just a person again. You are a witness. You are a warning. You are the one who knows. You don't know how long you kneel there bathed in sunlight that feels almost intrusive after so long in the dark. It brushes your shoulders like a stranger's hand, familiar in theory, but foreign to the skin. The wind carries scents you had forgotten existed: soil, pine, distant smoke from a cottage chimney. They twist your stomach, not with nausea, with longing. But longing can be dangerous, because deep inside you, the dungeon still echoes. You rise slowly. The grass crunches beneath your hands. Your knees ache from stone and time. When you look behind you, the castle looms. Huska. Its windows stare blankly, its walls weathered but proud. But something is different now. It's not guarding anything anymore. It's watching you. The village lies just beyond the tree line, smoke rising in slow curls from a few chimneys. You don't remember walking down the path, but you find yourself there anyway, boots crunching on gravel as faces begin to emerge from doorways. The same old man steps forward, eyes sunken, voice steady. You made it back. You don't answer. What could you possibly say? He nods as if he understands your silence. They always do. The first one. Your brow furrows. First, he doesn't respond right away. Instead, he turns and gestures to the chapel. The same one from before. The one built over the spiral. The one that knew. You follow him inside. It's darker now. Quieter. The cracked stained glass bleeds colored light across the dusty floorboards. He leads you to the altar and steps aside. Beneath it, a trap door. Not hidden, not locked. You stare at it. I just left you whisper. No, the old man says. You were sent back. There's a difference. You kneel and brush away the dust. The wood pulses beneath your hand. Still alive. Still aware. You pull it open. Below, nothing but shadow. But you know that shadow now, intimately. Why me, you ask? He places a hand on your shoulder. You weren't chosen. You glance at him. He smiles gently. You survived. You sit in the chapel for a long while after he leaves the trapdoor open, the breeze ruffling pages of a Bible no one reads anymore. You don't cry. The dungeon took your tears long ago, but your hands shake. You stare at the mark on your chest, the one that had burned so brightly just hours ago. Gone now. But something else has replaced it. You pull your shirt down slightly and see it. A new mark. Not the spiral. Not a symbol. A word. Burned in faint white, raised like scar tissue. Witness. You step back outside. The villagers don't look at you. They don't need to. They already know what you are, and they know what comes next. You walk. No one follows. The road takes you through woods, through plains, across rivers. Each village you pass is quieter than the last. They sense you before they see you. Children go inside. Dogs howl and hide. Church bells ring once, not for prayer, but warning. Your reflection changes. Shadows grow under your eyes. You smile less. You listen more because you hear the voices. Not always. Not clearly. But sometimes in the whisper of wind, in the creak of a door, in the silence between footsteps, you feel it. The dungeon, still whispering, still waiting. You stay in inns. You avoid sleep. You eat only enough to survive. Because when you close your eyes, the throne waits behind them. Always. And one night you dream. Not a nightmare. A vision. You walk into a room made of glass. In its center, a child sits on the floor, drawing spirals into the dirt. They look up. Their face is familiar. Yours. You forgot something they say. You shake your head. I remember everything. They smile. No. You forgot to write it down. You wake with a jolt, and you know what you must do. You find pen and ink. You find parchment, and you begin. You don't write as a warning or as a call for help. You write because someone somewhere will find it, and they'll know they're not alone when they start to descend. Because that's how the dungeon survives. Not just with prisoners, but with stories. Whispers passed from one trembling voice to the next. It doesn't need walls or chains. It needs only memory. And memory is exactly what you've become. The parchment beneath your fingers feels impossibly fragile. Each stroke of the quill scratches like bone on stone. The ink spreads thinly, as if reluctant to mark the page, as if even the tools fear the truths you're about to commit to paper. But you write anyway. You begin at the beginning, but the beginning feels like centuries ago. You try to remember the sound of the first door creaking open, the scent of moss-covered stone, the echo of your footsteps as you descended deeper and deeper into the unknown. Every word you write pulls those memories forward, dragging them from the corners of your mind where the dungeon tried to bury them. You detail the mirrors, the throne, the kneeling version of yourself that whispered forgotten truths. You write it all. But it isn't for you anymore. It's for the next one. The next traveler who finds themselves standing at the edge of that first staircase. The next dreamer who believes they're just exploring a ruin just passing through. They'll read your words and feel the same pull. They always do. And that's how it spreads. You're in a monastery now, isolated, tucked into a cliffside that overlooks a valley so quiet, it almost feels untouched by the world below. The monks don't ask where you came from. They ask no questions at all. They offer you food, shelter, silence. You accept. You spend your days in the scriptorium hunched over pages that stretch out like veins across the table. The brothers copy psalms and gospels. You copy screams and spiral-born visions. At night, they pray, and you remember. Every dream becomes a chapter. Every nightmare becomes a footnote. But it's not just your story anymore. It's theirs, too. You see faces now in flickers. A woman with braids who screamed until her voice bled. A child who held their breath for 3 days just to avoid hearing the whispers in the walls. A man who took the throne willingly and smiled as the bone claimed him. You write them all. One night, one of the younger monks brings you a book. He says it was left at the chapel, wrapped in cloth, buried beneath the altar. You unwrap it slowly. It's your book, the one you saw in the library, the one that recorded every step, every thought, every sin. But now its final pages are filled. You flip to the back. There's an inscription. not in ink, in blood. 2 words. It begins. Your breath catches. Because you understand. You thought you had escaped. You thought you had broken the cycle. But you've only taken another turn in the spiral. And the dungeon. It's still with you. Only now it doesn't need to drag people down. Because your words will do it for you. They'll read your account. Feel that tug, the curiosity, the chill in their spine. And they'll go looking. Some physically, some only in thought. But either way, they'll descend. And that's when it hits you. You are not a survivor. You are a door, a living entrance to something far beneath reason. And now people pass through you every day with every word they read, every story they repeat, every fragment of your tale they whisper to someone in the dark. The monk says something, but his voice is distant, muffled by the weight of revelation. You smile softly. You understand your role now, not as warden, not as victim, not even as witness, but as a carrier. Like a plague that doesn't infect the body, but the mind. You close the book and hand it back. Keep it hidden, you whisper. He nods, but you know it won't stay hidden for long. Books like this want to be found. You step outside, the cold wind kissing your skin. Somewhere far below you hear the faintest echo. Not a scream, not a cry, just the creak of a wooden door, opening. And in that moment you realize you didn't survive the dungeon. You're still inside it. You always were. And now the world is too. The days pass without rhythm. Time no longer touches you the way it used to. Meals are eaten and forgotten. The sun rises and sets like a pendulum you stopped believing in. The monastery hums with quiet ritual chants in the morning silence in the evening, but even that feels distant. You are no longer part of this place. You're a shadow inside it, a presence that flickers just behind the candlelight. You're not aging. Not really. You realize this one morning when you catch your reflection in a brass wash basin. Your face is exactly as it was the day you left the dungeon. The same faint scar on your cheek. The same tired, steady eyes. Not a day older. Not a hair grayer. The mark may be gone from your chest, but the dungeon has left its permanence somewhere deeper. You step outside and look at the horizon. You haven't gone far in weeks, but now something inside you stirs. A soft tug like a thread pulled through the fabric of your being. It wants you to move, not back, outward. You follow it. The monks don't stop you. A few nod solemnly as you pass. One gives you a water skin. Another a scrap of cloth to wrap your journal. No one asks where you're going. They know it's not your choice. You walk for days, through forest paths overgrown with brambles that seem to move when you're not looking. Through a village that's been burned to the ground, though not by fire. The walls are melted, the stones pulsing faintly like they remember something violent. And finally, to a hill. Atop it stands a man, waiting. You recognize him instantly. It's you. But not the armored reflection from the door. Not the kneeling, decayed version from the chamber. This version is calm, gentle. His eyes are soft, his face lined by time you never lived. He stands barefoot on the grass, hands open at his sides. You stop at the base of the hill. He nods. You've come far. You shake your head. I haven't moved at all. He smiles faintly. No. But the dungeon has. You frown. What does that mean? It grows every time a story is told, every time someone remembers. He points behind you. You turn. And the world has changed. What was once forest is now stone. Not overtly, not instantly. But you see it a spiral carved into a tree's bark. A well whose water is darker than it should be. A barn whose nails curve just slightly into teeth. The dungeon is here. You whirl back to him. You said I wasn't chosen. You weren't. Then why me? He walks forward slowly and places a hand on your shoulder. Because you said no. You don't understand. You do understand. Saying no was never escape. It was inheritance. A transfer of something ancient. A legacy of memory. He kneels and presses his palm into the dirt. The grass withers beneath his hand. Stone spreads outward. Spiraled. And then he's gone. Not in a blink, not in a flash. He unwrites. Fades like a name rubbed from a gravestone. And you are alone again. But the hill isn't. A door stands at the top now. Wooden. Old. Creaking faintly in the wind that doesn't blow. You walk up to it. Place your hand on the frame. And listen. There's no sound. But there is presence. You push it open. And inside is a hallway. Of course it is. Narrow. Descending. You step back, but only one step. Because you know the dungeon never ends. It only relocates. Every act of memory builds a new room. Every retelling forges another staircase. And every person who hears the story adds themselves to the architecture. It's not a place anymore. It's a network. A living organism made of fear, trauma, fascination. And you're its pulse. You shut the door, for now. But the spiral beneath your feet glows faintly, waiting. Because somewhere not far from here, someone is reading, and the descent begins again. You don't return to the monastery. There's no path to retrace. The forest, the hills, even the sky, none of it feels stable anymore. You've stepped out of one world and into another, where the dungeon's reach has spread like ink through water. Every town has shadows that are a little too dark. Every child's game ends with a door being opened. Every story somewhere deep beneath the surface contains a spiral. You keep walking. Your legs grow weary, but you never collapse. Hunger presses at your ribs, but never enough to break you. You're caught in a state between mortal and myth, still alive but not quite tethered to the old laws of flesh. In a forgotten village, name scraped from the stone, an old woman finds you sleeping beneath a ruined fountain. She wakes you with a hand on your cheek. She says nothing, only places a tattered scroll in your lap. On it, the spiral. You don't ask where she found it. You don't need to. She simply says, "They're asking for you," and walks away. You unroll the scroll. It's not parchment, it's skin. Human. You recognize the handwriting. It's yours. But you don't remember writing it. The words aren't instructions. They're not a plea. They're not even a story. They're a map. Not geographic. Spiritual. You trace the lines with your finger and your breath catches. The spiral is not a symbol of imprisonment. It is a guide, not to escape, but to understanding. And somewhere in the center of it, beneath all the pain, the memory, the fear, lies a question. If you could unsee it, would you? You stare at the scroll for hours, and when you finally answer softly aloud, the earth beneath you shifts. No. The dungeon hears you. Of course it does. The sky above you flickers. You blink and the world stutters. You are in a city now, bustling, modern. The steel and glass shimmer in the light of 1,000 neon signs. But in the reflection of every window, you see it spirals in headlights, in graffiti, in logos on coffee cups. The dungeon has moved in, quietly, patiently, through memory, through you, and you realize the stories you've written, the words you've whispered, the truth you've carried, it's all gone out now. Like spores on the wind. There's no going back. A child in a bookstore finds a journal tucked between dusty shelves. They open it. On the first page, a drawing of a door. On the second, your name. And on the third, in handwriting, small and deliberate, you are the next witness. You close your eyes. Because you feel it again, the spiral calling. Not to return, but to grow, to teach, to infect. And somewhere far below this city, a new door has opened. A new hallway twists downward, and someone is walking toward it. Someone just like you once were. Curious, tired, lonely, human. And as they descend into that waiting dark, the dungeon whispers the same words it has whispered for centuries. You will remember, or you will become. And they will. Just as you did. Just as all of us do in the end. Because once the dungeon is in your mind, it never truly leaves. You've made it. You've reached the end of the journey. Or maybe not. Maybe the dungeon still lingers just beyond the corner of your room, in the patterns of your ceiling, in the soft hum of your fan. That spiral, that idea, it doesn't need iron doors or stone floors to exist. It only needs your memory, your imagination. But that's okay. Because this is the part where your body gets heavier, your eyes softer. The part where your breath slows, your thoughts untangle, and the sounds around you begin to fade into the quiet rhythm of sleep. You're safe now. The spiral will wait. You don't have to descend any further tonight. Let your mind drift not into a dungeon, but into a calm field or a quiet sea, or a stretch of stars that ask nothing of you. You've done enough for one evening. And whatever dark halls you've wandered in your thoughts, remember, they were only stories. Just whispers shaped like fear. And you are still here, still whole, still breathing. So go ahead. Close your eyes. Sink into the mattress. And let the spiral rest for now. You'll be here when morning comes, and the dungeon will remain exactly where it belongs, in the dark, unseen, unspoken, unmoving, at least until you remember again.